They leave.
Got traffic there. Blaster, just take it up to the departure end of the runway, then a left turn into the lowest downwind. Cessna over the threshold, coming up on the white dot, at or beyond the white dot, left turn first available. I got a high wind coming up on about a half-mile final, clear to land at or beyond. Traffic on the left face, you're following a Cessna down, low off your left. Square it up just a little bit, and then we're going to get you in. Start your descent, though. Start your descent on the base. Traffic on final, give me follow on base. Base traffic, start turning toward the numbers now. High wing coming up on quarter-mile final, take it all the way down to the green. Cessna taxiing on the green, expedite down to the next hard surface. Get me some speed, there you go, 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 go fast. This is going to be good. I got traffic on a mile final. You're following traffic ahead and to your right. High wing coming up on the threshold. Take it all the way down to the green dot.
5 Charlie Sierra, 2 mile final.
A mile final, turn north, and we're going to just make you, we're going to bring you back around. Jet traffic's coming up on about a mile and a half final. Runway 9 clear to land.
Okay, all right, let's listen up, guys. If you're on final for runway 9, I want you to offset to the left. I got a jet that's landing on runway 9. The jet's cleared to land runway 9 if you can make it. If not, just continue straight ahead. It looks like you're going around for the jet. That's fine, that's fine, that's fine.
Oh, we had one right in front of us, sir.
Dragger, let's see, what we got, a tricycle, put it down, tricycle, put it down, tail dragger, down to the green dot, then a left turn. Short final here, you cleared land on 9, all the way to the white dot, go down to the white dot. Find somebody to follow out here. Canard, just come to the runway and I might have to just send you around, that'll be fine. And for the jet, you just want to stay in this pattern or you want to go back out for an instrument approach?
Stay in a pattern, Charlie Sierra.
All right, just stay with me here for a minute. And my tail dragger, let's see, over the numbers, go down to the green. And Canard's going to have to go around. Canard, go around. And my high wing here over the runway, keep it airborne. You do not descend. You got a fast guy behind you. Do not descend. There you go. Keep it airborne. As soon as the guy behind you gets slowed down, I'm going to put you down. So keep it airborne. The one that just passed the white dot, make a left turn on the hard surface. All right, my high wing tail dragger, you can put it down now. And Charlie Sierra, let me get you about a mile off. Let's see, Charlie Sierra, I lost. There you are. Make a left-hand turn. I'll try to resequence you here on the downwinds. We'll see how it looks. Short final, you're clear to land runway 9 on the white dot. There you go. And the tricycle left on the hard surface and follow the flagman. Welcome. Thanks for being part of the show. And let's see, just find somebody to follow on the final, and as you get close to the runway, if it's not going to work, we're going to send you around and then try to re-sequence you. Now, who else got sent around that's not back on the downwind? The Canard?
Yeah, Canard.
All right, Canard, there's a Gulfstream up there that went around too. I just lost sight of him, but you're going to make kind of a left-hand turn and stay low. I think Charlie Sierra, what's your altitude?
3,200.
Okay, that'll be fine. Just maintain VFR. I don't know what else is up there above you. Probably most everybody's down here, so just make a left-hand turn. We'll try to get you back here.
Canard's got the jet in sight.
Okay, the RV, maybe an RV-10, whatever, here on final. Keep your speed up and go all the way down to the, aim for the green dot for me. Actually, keep your speed up. There's a guy behind you. Aim for the green dot, and I'm sure that's plenty of room for you to land on runway 9. You're clear to land on runway 9. Number 2, you're going to go down to the white dot. Follow the white dot. Actually, you know what? That's 1,500 feet. You're going to land at the white dot. The spacing looks adequate here. 2 guys on final. You're kind of tight there. Keep each other in sight, and you're going to aim for the white dot. If it's not going to work, we'll come up with a plan B. We might have to send you around. The second guy behind you out there in about a 2-mile final. Are you slow enough to be able to follow that guy in front of you? You need to go around. Well, I probably shouldn't ask that because I had about 5 guys answer me, so I should know better than that. After 35 years, you would think, right? All right, so let me see. The guy who's number 1, it's number 1. What kind of airplane is he? An RV type. All right, RV type. Keep it airborne for me. Keep it airborne. And I got a fast guy behind you. The number 2 guy over the trees there. Go ahead and put it down on the numbers. My first guy just coming up on the numbers at the over the grass at the numbers. I want you to keep it.
T-minus 1 minute and counting.
Hello.
Four, three, two, one.
Hello!
Hello.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's Flyer livestream. Ian is away in France, so Ed asked who would like to host, and I was the last person to put my hand down. So on tonight's show, we have the latest SkyDemon tip. Simon's with us with the weekend weather. We have, for a change, good news about an airfield, highlights from the Paris Air Show, and the latest information for club members. Excuse me, including a heads up on free landings for July. This week we have not one, not two, but three guests. We have Steve Noujaim and Rhody Sims, who'll be along in a second, tell us about a flight taking place this weekend. And Mike Pearson has the latest on the future of 100LL. Remember, if you enjoy the content, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and share the link to the show. And if you're watching later, let us know by popping a comment under the video. Sorry, I've got the Ian coughs tonight. As always, we could not do this without the support of our brilliant sponsor, SkyDemon, and here they are with this week's tip.
Hi, I'm Tim from SkyDemon. Welcome to this week's top tip.
When you have a route planned, you can use the Airfields tab to see the airfields that form your route and quickly bring up their information. You can also add another airfield to the Airfields tab. Let's bring up the information in what's here, go to it, and then use the pin button here at the top, pin to route. You'll now see that airfield is always in the Airfields tab for this route, even though it doesn't actually form your route. Therefore, when you're flying, you can quickly get access to it to see its weather, or frequencies, runways, or other documents.
For our full user manual, go to skydemon.aero and choose Help and Support.
He has such a relaxing voice, doesn't he, Tim?
Yes, he's very English in his delivery, isn't he?
He is. I mean, if SkyDemon ever runs out of steam, he could get another job doing something, couldn't he?
Well, Tim, head of SkyDemon, and with his new career as voiceover artiste.
Yes, actually, it gives me an idea.
Aha. Talking of ideas, I'd like to know what's going on with the weather. Shall we take a look and see what Simon thinks he has in store for us? Because he's not here, he's on a recording, so fingers crossed.
Hi everyone, I hope you're having a good evening this evening, and phew, what a scorcher. This weekend is looking okay-ish, messy though, as we go through Saturday, and some rain across western areas on Sunday as the warm air gets shifted across towards the east. Let me show you what I mean. Different charts for you tonight. I think I showed these to you last week as well, didn't I? These are the high resolution cloud, pressure, and rainfall charts from the German Icon EU model. So where we see white colours on here is where we've got most cloud. Where we see the dark colours here is where we've got breaks in the cloud. Where it's black, such as in here, is where we've got cloud-free skies. So this is the forecast through tomorrow morning, and you notice into the afternoon that cloud across central and eastern areas clearing away towards the east. I think that's mainly medium and high level cloud really, and it leaves the afternoon generally fine through Friday. 1 or 2 showers across Ireland, but generally for most of us, bases around 5,000 feet, tops at about 8,000 feet. Now, overnight into Saturday, cloud increasing across Ireland and the west of the UK, and by Saturday morning, starting to see those outbreaks of rain, some of them quite thundery, getting into parts of Wales and into southwest England. Quite murky as well across these western coasts and hills. Better towards the east. I still think quite hazy though, perhaps 5 to 8 kilometre visibility. Bases around 5,000 feet, tops at 8,000 feet, but increasing amounts of medium level cloud as well. And then through the late morning, showers moving into northwest England, through Wales, and then into the afternoon, and by the evening we finding some heavier thundery showers wanting to develop across parts of northern England. Eastern England tending to be quite murky, the chance of an odd bit of fog here, but western areas seeing far more broken cloud, bases probably about 4,000 feet, tops about 10 to 12,000 feet, some hefty showers getting into Ireland. Now, some real big thunderstorms potentially overnight into sunny morning across northeast England and then eventually the eastern Midlands before showers follow in from the west as fresher weather arrives. And then that leaves us by Sunday with a fair amount of cloud, quite a brisk west to southwest wind, rain affecting western Scotland and much of Ireland. Some of this could turn out to be quite heavy, and that's where it's going to be windiest as well. 1,000 to 3,000 foot bases, tops of around 15,000 feet. Further east, generally it's flyable, and bases of around 3,000 feet, tops at about 12,000 feet. The cloud just thickening up, and bits and pieces of rain affecting western coasts and hills, some hill fog in the west as well as we get through Sunday afternoon. And then by the evening, that rain crossing northern England, through Wales, through Scotland, through most of Ireland, and a few showers developing across central and eastern England as well, and becoming pretty windy with those southwest winds gusting to 25, perhaps even 30 knots. But just keep a very careful eye on the forecast for Sunday. So lots going on. Do stay up to date with the forecast. You can do that at weatherweb.net, which is where I update these videos or videos like this every day. And at the moment, I've actually got all full weather schools. I'm about to announce the next set of dates. So if you want to come along to weather school, go to weatherschool.co.uk, go to the contact us form, click on contact, and just fill in the form there to let me know that you want me to let you know when I announce the next date for weather school. You're not obliged to anything. And if you want to take a weather school course right away, go to aviation, click on a pilot's guide to scooties. You'll see me going on about scooties. I think this is what every pilot needs to know. You can go and take that course now. You get a free ebook. You get a certificate when you complete it. It only takes you about 3 hours, but trust me, your forecasting will be enhanced immensely and you'll get so much more enjoyment from your flying from it. Okay. I will leave you with that. Have a fantastic, have a safe flying weekend, won't you? And I'll catch you next week. Bye for now.
Well, I'm always a bit worried when he goes, it's a bit complex.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Or interesting. Yes. Interesting weather for aviating this weekend, but in the green room we have two people with very special airborne plans who are here with the first news story. Shall we bring them in, Ed?
Absolutely. Let's add them and do the magic of whistling them around. And there we
We soon
just
see
like
that. Yeah.
There we go. I'm always trying to preserve the Ian production values, and they are still alive and well here. So
I'll have
joining us,
a smoking fit in a minute, and then we'll be right on track.
exactly, yeah. Joining us tonight as special guests for news is Steve Noujaim and Rhody Sims. Steve is no stranger to the live stream, as he was here in September last year talking about his world record-breaking flight to Cape Town and back. And this year he's come up with a new challenge, this time Pooley's Dawn to Dusk challenge to raise money for the charity Fly to Help. So Steve and Rhody, welcome, and what's the plan?
That weather forecast looks a bit scary, doesn't it? Yeah. A bit.
Yeah, is your plan now changed?
Thinking about it. Well, it's a night IFR aeroplane, so we'll crack on with it. But yeah, the plan is to launch at sunrise, fly around the UK coastline, create a story with photographs with reference to this sceptred isle. So if you Google that, you'll see what we mean. But so there'll be pictures. We're going to create a book at the end of it, and Rhody is going to take some pickies, and we put him on the right-hand side of the RV7, and we're going to create a story about Great Britain and Northern Ireland, basically, and have a bit of fun flying around UK.
So it's a fun flight, but how long is that fun flight? Because that's quite a long way. And what's your timing? What's your timing looking like?
So the pictures that you showed us just now is slightly out of date. So we've worked out it's 13 hours and 5 minutes flight time. Right. And I've slowed the old RV7 down from Cape Town speeds to sort of like a long range cruise.
Okay.
So we're going to be doing about, we've planned it for what? What did we plan it for?
153.
153 knots true, which it'll easily do. We should be quicker than that. Actually, we're using 2323, so it'll cruise at about 163 actually. but we got a howling southerly, southeasterly, all the way down the east coast on the way to Southend. So it'll balance, I reckon, not so good up the west coast of UK. So flight time 13 hours and 3 minutes, total distance not far off the 2,100 miles.
Okay, and you've got, I think you're planning to leave at 0450, aren't you?
Yeah.
And you've got until 21:30 hours, so you've got 16 hours and 40 minutes to play with.
Yeah. So we're launching out Aston Down,
right?
Because it's got a nice long runway, and Fly to Help, who we're doing this for, and I would encourage people to go and check them out. They are meeting us at the end when we land at 9:30 at night.
And Kirkbride is really helpful.
Yeah.
Are you back to Aston Down?
Yeah. So it's Aston Down to Aston Down.
Okay. Right. And where are you? And you've got 3 pit stops, haven't you? Essentially on the route. Where are those?
Well, we've got Kirkbride, Inverness, and Southend. And Kirkbride have been really helpful. They're getting out of bed early so that we can refuel there.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Each leg's around 3 to 3.5 hours, so it's not long. By the old RV there with its tip tanks will do 11. So.
Yeah. And I'm sure 3 hours seems like it seems like a reasonable time, but I'm sure in the first hour you'll be like super busy, and you might get to relax a little bit in the second hour, but then you'll be busy in the last hour. So
yeah, the big challenge is
airspace,
and getting on with Rhody. That Emma, one of our wing walkers, was telling me today. Don't kill each other.
We're going to be very close.
Hey?
12 hours.
I'm sure by the end of it that it'll be cockpit resource management like no one else knows. So
yeah.
So what's your fundraising target?
Well, Fly to Help have put down the miles, which is about 2,135 miles.
Okay.
A pound for each mile. To be honest, I'd like to see a bit more than that, if possible. And people can go on and check the Just Giving page and see. It's a fabulous charity, and for us in Gloucestershire, it's a local charity. Based out of Staverton. Not only do they fulfil people's potential end of life wishes with aviation, but also there's the science and getting youngsters into aviation, which I think we all know we need. So there's a link in the comments. Someone said, good luck, guys. How do we donate? Well, it's right here. Here's the Just Giving page. I checked earlier. It was on £979. So I hope live viewers can help push that a little bit further in the time we're on. So Mark Sanders said,
just over 1,000.
Okay, well, it's changed already. So Kirkbride, cheapest fuel on the mainland at the moment. So
every little helps.
I'll get rid of Rhody. I can fill it up.
I'm sure. I know in Cape configuration, didn't you? You had a seat where your second person. Sorry, you had a tank, didn't you, where a second person would go?
Yeah, but
it's him.
Yeah, but someone has to navigate, don't they?
I'm sure that's a much better passenger to have, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. It's a bit more. Well, challenging from a conversation point of view.
Slightly different smell.
Well, guys, we wish you the absolute best of luck. Obviously, everyone, please head to the Just Giving page and give what you can. And well, we hope the weather's on your side. We hope everything's on your side. And we look forward to hearing how it all went. So
maybe we can get them back next week for another 5 minutes to tell us how it goes.
Let you know how we get on.
We'll let you know how we get on, and you can follow us on Flight Radar or Plane Finder or any other tracking thing.
Other flight trackers are available.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, thanks very much, and best of
Okay.
luck.
Cheerio.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes,
Bye.
good luck.
Bye.
Good luck.
Well, that is an adventure. And do you remember a long time ago we did a thing called Fantasy Airspace once, and was it you, Dave, that came up with a around the UK like Class G, go anywhere, do anything,
That's
coastal route?
And it had to be a low-level route as well. We don't want to get any of this 5,000 feet nonsense. We want 500 feet.
That's what should have been. If only we'd campaigned for that.
Yep.
The distance they're covering is quite incredible. Though I took part in the Dawn Dust. The one and only time I've taken part was 2003. I was very, very young, clearly 16, I think. And my co-pilot and I, we won the long distance medal for the incredible feat of 1,100 miles.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
So 2,077 is that's going some, and it's one of those things. I'm sure that when you start off, it's like it's great, but as the day goes, that must be all your energy, and you need comfortable seats, which I'm sure Steve has. So, well, I reckon Steve's got a comfortable seat. I reckon Rhody needs to check his cushion. So.
I reckon he might find he hasn't got one and Steve's got two.
People are asking, Peter Cox says, what's the registration so we can follow on Flight Radar 24? It's Golf India X-Ray Foxtrot. So fantastic. Johnny. Oh, Johnny's muted.
But he's not.
There we go. Now I'm not. So yeah, kicking off with some airfield news. Good news this time from Brown Shutters Farm in Wiltshire. They've had some good planning permission news recently and been granted 5 fishing lakes with a nature conservation and wildlife area, and importantly a brand new access track to replace the current one, which if you've driven along it has got a few potholes in it, but removing the current access track will mean that runway 1533 will be widened. There's a few conditions that they need to deal with before the work starts later this summer. But it's really good news. It's a great little airfield. If you've not been, do go. It's fantastic. They've lengthened one of the east-west runway, so it's manageable now for most farm strip aeroplanes. But just a really good atmosphere. Generally, there's quite a lot going on there. Lots of based aeroplanes. It's a gorgeous place to actually just sit and watch airplanes, watch the world go by. But
it's one of those places a bit like Comden Abbas, where you sit there and the view is stunning. So
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, do go and check it out if you haven't been. It's difficult. I flew in there the first time last summer, and it because it's on a hump. Every runway meets the crossing, the intersection in the middle is the high point.
Yeah.
So the first kind of first 100 meter on each runway is you can't quite touch down on it, but it's brilliant. And as Lyndon says in the comments, there is a farm shop, literally a 2-minute walk away, with a really good cafe. So there is other stuff to do there.
It's the same as well too. So. Yeah, excellent. Well, that's great news, and that is I definitely recommend that as a place to go. So good. Okay, I've got some news, and it's the comeback. Perhaps no one knew was coming, but this is the fact that aircraft manufacturer Gips Aero is back in business in Australia, making aircraft all over again. So that they've made their first new airframe in 5 years, and it was a weird one preparing the news story for this, because I remember it was in the early days of Livestream, which really was 5 years ago. It was one of the news stories we talked about then, which is when they went out of business. But obviously they're back in business, and they made the announcement. They said milestone day yesterday for Gips Aero and Australian aviation with the recommencement of complete new aircraft manufacture. The rivet was set into the keel of GA8 Airvan serial number 263. I have to ponder. It's like, hopefully that when they say keel, they're not building boats but aeroplanes. But production of the GA Airvan and its sibling, the GA10, stopped in November 2020. And that's when Indian owner engineering giant Mahindra scaled back to parts supply only. So but anyway, one of the 2 founders of Gippsland Aeronautics, George Morgan, bought the company back in 2023, and it's him that's worked to restart the factory. And this is based at Latrobe Regional Airport, Gippsland, which is in southeast Australia. So if you fancy a fancy a kind of piston-looking caravan type thing. Gippsland.
You're really selling it.
But yeah, no, I wasn't expecting that. So.
No. I've got a little airvan story actually. A long time ago, when I was working for somebody else, I did a flight test of an airvan from Hinton in the Hedges, and just after we took off, I was with the factory pilot, obviously. Just after we took off, all our passengers jumped out, just like that. All of them, 8 passengers jumped out the back.
I'm guessing they all had napkins in backpacks.
Something like that. Yes, something like that.
Something like that.
They just didn't want me to. Didn't want to land with me at the controls.
Oh, so. Annabelle.
Yes. So a landmark roadmap has been agreed between the national aviation authorities of the UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the United States. The shared roadmap aims to speed up the certification of new aircraft types, in particular the introduction of advanced air mobility aircraft, especially electric or hybrid power VTOLs. The plan allows the 5 countries to share data, research, and safety information. The CAA has said, by working together, we can ensure the introduction of advanced air mobility aircraft is both safe and efficient, paving the way for the future of urban mobility.
The CAA have got more roadmaps than Collins Atlas, haven't they?
Yes, but I'm chinging. It should be Collins Atlas, apparently.
Yes. Roadmaps and sandboxes. Are they into aviation anymore?
Yeah. Right, so my story. It's the Paris Air Show is on this week. It's very hot and sweaty at the Paris Air Show at the moment. I've seen some pictures and I've been there a couple of times. When it gets hot, it's really, really hot there. So there's mostly airlines and military, but there is some GA interest. And one of the big things was Textron was showing off its latest demonstrator aircraft, a Beechcraft King Air 350 ER. ER stands for Extended Range. It's the biggest, most powerful version of the King Air. Textron is emphasizing the aircraft's multi-mission roles, such as air ambulance, training, utility work, such as flying people and parts to out-of-the-way places. However, the demonstrator, which is shown here, was fitted out for special missions, which the industry calls ISR, that's intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. The rest of us use terms like black ops or just plain spying. It has a nose-mounted sphere full of cameras and sensors, which can be dropped down out of the nose and rotated to find and track subjects. An operator sits on board at a workstation with a mission computer, full-size display. It also has these things called SCAR pods, self-contained aerial reconnaissance pods, which can be configured with radar, VDAR, which is for small object detection, infrared, and a death ray. Okay, it hasn't got a death ray, I just made that bit up. Okay. Lastly, but not least, it's fitted with underwing hardpoints. I don't think an air ambulance is going to ever need those.
No. I've got to say, if you've got kind of eco Bond villain aspirations, I think your first call should be to Textron, because that looks like that would be right up a cheapskate Bond villains kind of solution, doesn't it?
Yep.
It's like you can search the internet and post on Twitter or X or whatever it's called. while doing nefarious things.
Yeah. Also at the show, a French light aircraft maker, Elixir, with a version of its 2-seat training aircraft fitted with one of Turbotech's turbines. The Elixir turbine has just made its first flight. They announced this at Paris from the factory's base at La Rochelle. The plan is to develop the aircraft to use what's known as sustainable aviation fuel. This is Jet A made from things like cooking oil and waste vegetables and that sort of thing. And they hope to have that version flying by the end of the year. So.
And it's a real interesting route, isn't it? Because Elixir actually put their hand up and went, we don't believe in batteries or any of that tech. It's like, we think sustainable stuff is going to be through using a turbine. So.
Yeah. If you look at the Paris Air Show, and you have to say the French aviation industry is in a very good place at the moment. Obviously there's Airbus is the big name, but that whole lot of Turbotech, Elixirs over on the west coast by La Rochelle, but there's a whole bunch around Toulouse that are this sort of aviation tech valley type place. Yeah, you have to hand it to the French. They've kept the industry going.
Yeah, no, that's great. So yeah, long may it continue. Johnny.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, right. Club members, thank you for being members. If you're not a member, you can join at fly.co.uk/membership. There's plenty to do and watch when you are a member. We've got hours and hours of webinars that you can catch up on from over the past 2 or 3 years now. And yeah, you can join from £5 a month or £52 for the full year. June's landing vouchers are East Kirkby, Jersey, Balado and Sackville Farm. And coming up in July, we've got 2 confirmed so far. The first is Yatesbury in Wiltshire, and the second is Tibenham. So 2 great ones there. Thank you, Annabelle. And yeah, the biggest point is there's tons of content on fly.co.uk which you can get full access to if you are a member. Content that goes back years, and obviously content that's added every day. So if you're not a member, please do join. And also, I think maybe Lyndon mentioned it, 130 odd people watching but not liking. So do like the video and do subscribe to the channel.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's a note from Chris Holliday going back to Dave's Paris story. He said, far more interesting stuff there than the King Air, Big Elixir exhibit, Aura Aero with their whole Integra family, JMB Shark. I was surprised by the amount of small GA, including a big Duke propellers.
I was wondering where you were going to go with that.
It could be a big duck.
Was hoping.
Yes, fantastic. Good.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, so recently there was an AvGas Fuel Summit. So this was a meeting focused on the transition away from traditional AvGas towards more sustainable alternatives. The meeting was chaired by Mike Pearson, and we are delighted to welcome him to the show tonight.
There we go.
We've only got to press the right buttons. The other one.
And there is Mike. And as if by magic, look at that.
Ta-da.
Good evening.
Hi there, Mike. How are you tonight? I understand it's very busy at Popham at the moment.
Yeah, they're all leaving, so there's plenty of noise in the background. Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's all right. I'd like to hear that.
Very good evening. Beautiful weather.
Yeah. So, for anybody who's got an aircraft powered by a high compression AvGas burning engine, they're really wondering about the future of the supplies of 100 low lead AvGas. You've been at this meeting, which you were there as the advocate for general aviation appointed by Department for Transport. Is that right?
Not quite right, David. I mean, I should say before we talk about AvGas, if you want to cause an argument with anybody, you just stop talking about technicalities on AvGas, because everybody's got an opinion, and there are going to be things I say tonight which people will violently disagree with. So let's start off on the right foot. I was GA advocate for the Department of Transport, turned around to money. Then I became the facilitator for the GA Alliance. And this meeting in London was actually organised by me, but it was hosted by Greenergy, the blender and manufacturer of aviation fuel from Estonia. That's how it came about. It was a one-day meeting. We started off, the introduction to the meeting was a bit like what I've said this evening. I mean, basically, we wanted to not disagree, but try to agree on things. So the rule for the day was, let's try and agree things and not worry about the things we might disagree on, so we could end up with a paper which was useful. We had 17 delegates. We had them, so I chaired the meeting for the General Aviation Alliance. The host was Green Energy. They are based in Estonia. They manufacture 100L and UL. We had users, Light Aircraft Association, AOPA, European Air Sports, PPLIR. Then we had some engine manufacturers, Rotax, CFS Aero were there, and Delta Air, looking after the vintage and legacy engines. We had some airfields. Old Buck and others. We had the regulator there, the CAA, and the DFT. And we also had somebody from synthetic fuel manufacturer. So we had a really good spread of people to get what I was hoping were good, positive opinions about where we actually are and where we've got to go. That was the plan. It wasn't online. It had to be in person. That was a stipulation. We didn't record the meeting, and you'd be amazed what a difference that makes to a meeting when it's not recorded, especially from officials who are in high places, who realise if they say something, it's going to be recorded. It wasn't recorded, and during the day, we did get a lot of awkward questions. But there were some headings. If you want me to just go through this, Dave, we'll give you a better understanding of what happened. First of all, we had an AvGas presentation from Green Energy. And the first thing you learn about AvGas is, if you're a chemist, it's great. If you're not, it's a very complicated mix of materials. The components in AvGas are not quite as straightforward as you might think they are. Lots of different components doing different things. And you need to understand why they're there and how important they are to the functioning of AvGas. Of course, tetraethyl lead in AvGas is the one that's been worrying most people. And to clarify this, the chemical agency in Europe has banned tetraethyl lead earlier this year, but the fuel companies applied for an exemption to continue to buy it and include it in AvGas. The application was for a 7-year extension. In fact, they were given a 7-year extension, but it has to be ratified by a REACH organisation, which is sitting on the 24th of June, which is coming up very soon. So I think everyone's thinking it's a done deal that we'll get the authorisation and they'll be able to carry on using lead, tetraethyl lead in particular. But it's not certain. And of course, in future, well, the future is very uncertain beyond the 7-year extension. One thing that's happened recently, and was reported at the meeting, that because the agency banned tetraethyl lead for Europe, that's one side of the argument. The people who were using it to manufacture things like the fuel companies get the exemption, but then the product is still banned. So if you've not seen it already, Ostend Airport has said they will not accept any aircraft that bring 100 LL leaded product into their airfield. And that's not the first. I think there are actually 2 in Belgium. They've done this now. So it's quite interesting that other than the users, there are people looking at this ban and applying their own rules to it. So it'll be interesting how that develops. Anyhow, 100 LL. So if they get a 7-year extension, we've got security of supply. The obvious alternative will be unleaded fuel. And we've had unleaded for at least 10 or 11 years already in this country. Here at Popham, we sell about 50% of each, 50% unleaded, 50% leaded fuel. And users make up their minds about whether they're going to use it or not. And we'll get into the technical arguments in a minute, but this was the first subject point. So the presentation told us that UL unleaded fuel, which we generally call UL 91, is in fact UL 94, which is a slightly different product. We've been selling UL 94 as UL 91 for some time. The differences are that it will be more acceptable in more engines than UL 91 was, but it doesn't have the 100 octane performance that 100LL has. And there's a lot of discussion about why that is, and this discussion really was developed around Green Energy's own intentions for the future. One thing you might like to know is that the 100LL blending plant can be switched to unleaded fuel quite quickly. So in terms of volume, if somebody mandated unleaded fuel from tomorrow, then it wouldn't be an issue getting the volume we need up and running to make unleaded fuel. But what's the right product? Then we discussed the technical barriers, and this is where most of the disagreements take place normally, because people have got views about this. The subject's been dealt with by many people over many years. I remember watching one of Paul Bertolini's AvWeb videos on this, quite amusing really. I think it started in 1959. We still haven't got a solution in 2025. How can that be? when the motor industries coped with unleaded fuel many years ago, we got Formula One cars doing 18,000 RPM and not having engine problems. How come we've got this problem? And I think one of the reasons is that, and this was discussed in the meeting, we're trying to solve a problem for a legacy engine. These engines are really old. The design is very old, and there hasn't been much development. I have to say that the Rotax contingent at the meeting were able to sit there with a smile on their face because they've got a modern engine that's been designed around, fuel efficiency and can accept all sorts of different fuels. And, so really it highlighted the fact that we're trying to deal with legacy engines. So the big question is always, well, if we put leaded fuel in an engine, what happens then? Big topic of conversation is detonation. Because the lead in 100LL prevents that happening in the high compression engines and the turbocharged engines. So the consensus is that 70% of GA engines operating at the moment could accept unleaded UL 94 and be okay. But 30% of the airframes that have got turbocharged and high compression engines potentially could be damaged because of detonation. There are other things to think about because it's not just the engine that sees the fuel. Fuel systems see the fuel as well. And the materials used in seals and fuel pumps, they can be affected by the components in alternative fuels. So that's another consideration. But detonation was the main point, and that's because I think the turbocharged, the big engine aircraft, the ones that do long distances, intercontinental flights, the expensive airplanes, and there wasn't a clear, obvious answer to how we could fuel those aircraft if 100LL is not available. There was a suggestion that if you used an unleaded fuel in a high compression engine, this detonation problem could destroy the engine, but there was no evidence to demonstrate that. And here we were really looking for engine manufacturers to come forward and speak up. In fact, some of the actions that came from the meeting were much about connecting with the manufacturers to get more clear views on what their engines can and can't do. So in fact, a lot of actions came from this meeting, which we have to follow up on. But I think detonation was the biggest problem, and one solution for that would be, at the moment, without any testing, would be to shorten the maintenance cycle to make sure that we were looking more regularly at those engines to see if any damage was taking place. If you go back a few years, it used to be valve seals, the sealing of valves that was the problem, and in this area, I think both Continental and Lycoming have moved forwards a bit with hardened valve seats, so that's more appropriate for unleaded fuel. But really, the technical barriers, that part of the meeting went on for quite some time.
So, Mike, just on that point, isn't the part of the problem also that many aircraft are certified for a certain fuel, such as a Cessna 182 with the 270 horsepower engine, that's certified to use 100LL. It can't be run on something less octane, not legally.
So, Dave, this came up under airworthiness. Questions about airworthiness. The suggestion was that the octane rating doesn't necessarily affect the performance of the engine, and the CAA's view at that meeting was that we wouldn't necessarily the airworthiness, and the biggest problem is to do with the potential damage to the engine. The engine will still run and perform quite well, but for how long? Aviation is all about safety, so we're not going to take any risks here, are we? So you really need to have that properly evaluated and tested. But as far as the airworthiness is concerned, it wouldn't affect that if you used an alternative fuel. I know what you're saying, though, Dave. If you look at any aircraft that's been tested, it will have been tested, with flight tests, and all the information will be listed there, and it will also say what fuel was used, and that will be on certainly 100LL. So but apparently that's not an issue at the moment, and when aircraft are approved for certain fuels, it's quite difficult to understand this. I mean, since the meeting, I've had the publicity generated quite a lot of interest, and some of the alternative fuel manufacturers like Yami and Swift, they claim to have type certification for their fuels, which is all very well, but if you can't buy the fuel, it doesn't really help you very much because the fuels really aren't available. So I'm not sure really what a certification really, what benefits that brings really. Might bring some comfort, but there's a lot of questions about alternatives. I mean, we've got 100 LL, we've got unleaded, and we've got these alternative fuels, and we don't know much about them. It was quite interesting during the presentation from Green Energy. There were lots of questions about the component makeup of these alternative fuels, but they're protected by patents, so we don't really know what's in them. It was suggested that possibly, whilst the lead in 100L is obviously something we don't want, but there might be things in the alternative fuels which equally we don't want, materials which we're not sure about, but we don't know the composition, so we can't question it, and that makes it very difficult to know where we're going to go with that. But none of these companies have got any real volume production of fuel. It's not available anywhere, so it doesn't take us forward really.
So shouldn't the aviation industry just do what the automotive industry did, or was subjected to? The authority said you have to meet this unleaded fuel ban by this date, and it was up to the manufacturers to go away and develop engines which met the rules for unleaded fuel. And those people who have, say, classic cars with high performance engines which couldn't run on unleaded fuel at the time, they'd either have to modify their engines or use an additive. I mean, she's really facing that, isn't it?
I think you've got to step back, make one step back as well, because the problem here is this. The reason 100NL is so offensive is because of the lead. That's the reason that it's offensive. If we take the lead out and go to unleaded, we've still got carbon fuel, David. And if you know anything about what's going on around us here, the green initiative to go green, and the aviation industry is certainly more advanced than most parts of this program. We've got to go green by 2050. So unleaded fuel wouldn't be acceptable in 2050. Maybe so we've got to go 2 steps: leaded, unleaded, and then to something else which is green. So it's quite a challenge, really. I don't think we've got all the answers. We did have somebody at the meeting from a recent employee of a synthetic fuel manufacturer, and this was power to liquid. This is carbon capture, and then hydrogen from water, and then the emulsifying process to produce fuel. And that's quite a successful process. It can be done fairly green by using wind power to generate electricity, but there's no investment anywhere for that process. So although it's in the future, it's not available right now. So unleaded is probably where we're going to end up, and probably because of a mandate or a ban rather than any other reason. And so that's what an additive seems like an easy solution, doesn't it? But there was no suggestion from anybody about additives that would make the difference between what we get from 100L and the leaded additive and unleaded. So, and that's because of the legacy engine. The engine design simply will not take the strain, if you like. That's the way it seemed to me, unless you're flying Rotax, in which case you're in a good position. We did talk about the commercial part of this as well, because it's one thing to say, okay, an unleaded fuel is available, but you need 2 tanks. We need 2 tanks at Popham to do this. If you only got 1 tank at an airfield, it's a £22,000 investment. And sort of switching from one to the other overnight is not impossible, but it's huge commercial risk if no one's going to buy the unleaded product. So there's a commercial barrier to trying to adopt the leaded fuels. And there's a second part about this, in so much as the availability. At the moment, the way fuel is delivered, there are 2 main storage facilities in the UK. One's in Navigator in London, the other one's in Immingham. And these are bulk storage of 100 LL. So if we order that product, we can get it in short order on a tanker from those sources. If you want to buy unleaded fuel, then at the moment, there's only, as far as I'm aware, nothing else was discussed at this meeting, but there are 2 suppliers. One is Green Energy, which is part of Trafigura, and the other one is Varta in Poland. In Poland, Varta only make the product, I think, during the summertime when there's demand for it, and so that makes green energy the most important unleaded fuel producer. But they put the fuel into ISO containers, which goes onto a boat, which steams across the North Sea, is delivered to a port, clears customs, goes on the back of a road truck, and then gets delivered on a milk round to people that are selling unleaded. Not a very convenient way of doing things, and it's expensive. So there's a commercial penalty for selling unleaded. I buy unleaded fuel here at a higher price than I buy 100 LL, but I have to sell it at the same price as 100 LL, otherwise I wouldn't be able to sell it. It doesn't make any sense to try and have a high price for unleaded fuel. And I know that all the local airfields around here sell it, like UL91, stroke 94, do the same thing. One thing that's happening with the UL94, which is interesting, is that at the moment, this is it's a clear liquid, like motor fuel, and it's going to turn purple very shortly. So if you buy, when you're doing a fuel check in future, you'll see some purple fuel. That's unleaded fuel, which is a good thing to do actually, because at the moment, it can be mixed up with MoGas and other things. At least you know you've got unleaded aviation fuel if it's purple. So the alternative fuels is not an option, and I think we left the meeting with a list of things. And to be honest, what we're going to do is we're going to send the summary of the notes. I'll send you a copy of this, Dave, if you want to read it. I'll be happy to send you a copy. You might like to publish it. And the idea is to write to the minister and say, look, this is where we are with AvGas, and the piston fleet in the UK doesn't have anywhere to go unless we have a strategy of some kind. The government's come up with really good plans for sustainable aviation fuel. They've mandated prices for it. They've got manufacturers in the UK sponsored by the government making the fuel. They've done absolutely nothing for this sector, and we need to have some sort of policy directive from government, which gives us some guidance, and it gives confidence to the people who blend fuel to make the provisions for us, because we need it. And I think this is going to accelerate. We may have 7 years, but that's no time at all in terms of a production plan. At the meeting, we tried to avoid any discussion about batteries, hydrogen, hybrids, and all that stuff, because that would require us to change our airplanes. We're not going to do that. I just don't see us changing the entire fleet to a newly powered aircraft. We're going to keep our legacy airplanes, our history, and we're going to want to power them somehow. So we have to find a solution to this. The real problem is only with the 30% that can't take 100 LL. And we are going to open the discussions with the manufacturers again directly from this group to try and formulate a plan there and get some. There's one other thing I should say. ICAO have got some comments on this. I know that they're quite happy with unleaded, but they make a statement somewhere. Something like the fuel has to have, I can't find it quickly, there it is. More widely, ICAO advises alternative fuels must have, and this is what they say, technically compatibility without compromise of performance or safety. So that sort of ignores all the technical problems. It just says, as long as you can get a fuel which will do the same thing, that's okay. I mean, people are thinking about this. I don't think there's much, shouldn't say this perhaps, but I think maybe the engine manufacturers could help us here. They could do a bit more work. If they don't want to change the designs, then okay, but we need advice on testing and where we can and can't go with fuels. We need more advice. It's not clear at the moment.
Yeah,
there are bulletins from time to time from Lycoming, which are helpful, but I think we need more.
Yep. Well, some of the lads are going to Oshkosh later in July, and it'd be a good opportunity for them to put that very question to Lycoming and Continental, who are the two biggies in this field.
We'll definitely try. In the past, they've been reticent to answer those sorts of questions.
Why is that? Ed?
I don't know, Mike. It's very odd.
Well, thanks for your time, Mike. I know you've had a busy day with people flying into your barbecue, one of your barbecue evenings. When's the next one, by the way, so we can all put it in our diary?
It's the 24th of July.
24th of July. Okay.
You're welcome.
Great.
We had visitors today from as far away as Peterborough and Coventry, and somebody from the West Country. It's become very popular. So you're very welcome.
Great. Well, thanks for your time, Mike. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks. Bye-bye. It's a debate that's going to run and run, I think, isn't it? The whole what is the future of fuel? It's nice to know that Mike's a great advocate to have out there. You know, at least leaning on people and bringing people together and going, we need to think about this, and we need some decisions. So
he's right in saying it's up to the engine manufacturers to really get a move on because.
Well, it is. I think it's
the subject.
Yeah, personally, I think it's kind of engine manufacturers and regulators. They kind of need to put their heads together and go. And I think sometimes certification can be a thing that people hide behind. But you go, we can change certification. It just needs the will, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, enough of that. It must be time for. So this week, with one mind on the future of fuels, we thought, what about fuels of the past? And what flying machines could we find for our fancy hangars that took to the skies thanks to alternate fuels? So I think I was going to ask who's first, but I know it's me. And let me save you the time, because the rest of you, none of you are going to have winners after I've given my option, because I've gone for this. It's the magnificent North American X-15. I'll just pop it on the screen. I picked it because sometimes you need to go Mach 6, and to do that, you need a rocket engine burning fertilizer, or you might know it as anhydrous ammonia. You combine that with liquid oxygen, and in the rocket motor that the X-15 used, which was the XLR-99, you could actually throttle it. You could throttle anywhere between 50 and 100%, and you could turn it off and turn it back on again. The XLR-99 it generated 57,000 pounds of thrust. It needed hydrogen peroxide to drive the high-speed turbo pump to deliver propellants to the engine. And when I say turbo pump, we're talking 6,800 kilograms of that ammonia and liquid oxygen in just 80 seconds. Anyone want to guess the time before overhaul on the XLR-99 rocket engine?
Or 2 hours,
45 minutes.
1 hour TBO. As the typical
I win.
As the typical X-15 flight was 80 seconds, that was going to take you a while to get there. Also nice, if black isn't your colour, then the X-15 is also available in pink.
Nice.
Because fastest flights, when you go Mach 6, actually all your outside coating burns off. So what you do is you coat the aircraft with this ablative coating so that you have something to burn off before it gets to the aeroplane. So yeah, there we go. X-15 and rocket fuel. And the other I'm going to share this because it's a great one. The other reason I love the X-15 is because it gave rise to one of the best test pilot stories ever. And that was when in June 1960, Scott Crossfield was testing one of the XLR-99 powered X-15s. So it was strapped to the ground and he was using the throttling function, and a valve failed and the aeroplane blew up. Crossfield survived. The X-15's cockpit was blown off with the force of 50 G, which in future life left him with slightly odd vision. Relatively unharmed, though, he was freed from the cockpit, where he got soaked by an over-enthusiastic fire crew. And recounting the tale to the newspaper reporter later in the day, he said, I got soaked through to my pants. American trousers, clearly. Newspaper would later carry the headline, X-15 explodes, pilot wets pants.
Oh,
none of you need a fancy hangar after mine, because I mean, look at it. Look at the rudder on it. It's just a big Dairy Lee cheese triangle. But anyway,
it has heat stroke.
I know, yeah. It's go on. Who's next? I think it might be Johnny.
I think it's me, yeah. So I have gone for this machine.
Ooh.
U2 Dragon Lady. Which basically came into being, obviously in a lot of secrecy, and there was a story in the 50s of after the U-2's first flight, of some captain who was told to go and pick up a truckload of fuel from the fuel branch, and on the paperwork it said LF1, and not knowing what that was, he managed to get a sample and had it analysed, and it came back as paraffinic kerosene, which back then was known as charcoal lighter fluid.
Ooh.
So it was effectively powered by Zippo lighter fuel with a few additives. So it's called JPTS, Jet Propellant Thermally Stable, and it's designed so that it's got a flash point of 43 degrees C, and a freezing point of minus 53 degrees C. So obviously the U-2's flying 70+ thousand feet, so they needed a different fuel for it to maintain those altitudes without the engine conking out because the fuel's done something wrong. So yeah, fun little story of something slightly alternative.
Well, I like that, Johnny, but wasn't it going to take a really long time to fill the aeroplane up using those tiny tins?
Do you have to hold it upside down while you do it?
That's it, yeah. It's Dave next. Dave, what have you gone for?
Well, I've gone for something vaguely sensible compared to you two. I've gone for and you didn't mention that aircraft from the past when we were talking about this. I've gone for an aircraft that's very much now, which is the Bristol XL8. This is the Czech manufacturer's B-23 two-seater, fitted with a Turbotech TPR90 turboprop engine. The Turbotech turbine sips fuel compared with most turbines. It's got a fuel burn of 20 litres an hour, a cruise setting of 50%, and also this engine can burn almost any kind of fuel so long as it's liquid and flammable. And that includes diesel, petrol, AvGas, and most excitingly, hydrogen, because the emissions from hydrogen are just water, no pollutants. And it's not a dream. This is happening now. Turbotech is part of a project in that aviation valley in the southwest of France, where they are they're working with Safran and a company called Air Liquide, which distributes fuels, and they've successfully ground tested that engine burning hydrogen from a tank, a cryogenic liquid storage tank. Cryogenic means it's minus 250 degrees centigrade. So for now, I'd have to put up with Jet A, but at some point in the future, I could switch to hydrogen and just produce water.
So having encountered an aeroplane once where there was a fuel tank leak on my knee, and that was just AvGas. So, and you just go, oh, that's going to ruin my trousers. So if I get a leak of minus 250 degree hydrogen in the cockpit, Dave, is that going to be a problem?
Yes, it's going to be a very big problem, but probably only for a second or two.
I guess so, yeah. Because
your cockpit will be filled with hydrogen, which just needs the slightest spark to go off.
Ah, hello, Hindenburg. and it's only a technicality, Dave, but the Bristol XL8 turbine always reminds me of the Jerry Anderson TV program Fireball XL5. Could they not have called it the Bristol, like the XL5 Fireball, or is that a bad name for an aeroplane?
I think Fireball is not a great name for an aeroplane, I have to say. Sorry.
Well, that just leaves Annabelle. Well, Annabelle, what I feel you might sneak in with a winner here.
Oh, I don't know. No, I don't know. I have gone for an aircraft powered by dihydrogen monoxide.
Ooh.
Because I have gone for the Besler steam plane. In the early days of aviation, there were several attempts to use steam power, going right back to 1842 with the patenting of the delightfully named aerial steam carriage. But the Besler was probably the most successful. Designed by brothers George and William, they took a relatively small and light 150 horsepower engine that had been fitted to cars and attached it to a Travelair 2000. Made its maiden flight on the 12th of April 1933. The two-cylinder engine weighed just 82 kilograms, but the boiler, pumps, condensers and the water brought the total weight to around 230 kilograms, which was around 50 kilograms heavier than the engine replaced. It also did take 5 minutes to get up to pressure before you could fly. But it did have some advantages. It was so quiet that it was reported the pilot, while flying at 200 foot, could hold a shouted conversation with spectators on the ground. The engine could also be put into instant reverse, allowing for a very short stopping distance with no danger of nosing over. Also really handy for parking. Top speed was around 90 miles an hour, but it could only fly for 15 minutes as it didn't officially condense and reuse the water supply. But I would absolutely love to have this in my fantasy hangar, as despite limitations, it is ingenious and showed that steam power in the air was not only possible, but maybe even practical.
Flies in its own fog, says Martin Hand. It would be like, it's like you need an IMC rating just to fly it on a Cav-OK day.
And if you want to giggle, I've just put up a link for some British Pathé footage of this.
Wow. Well, that is quite something. I know obviously Dave's is going to freeze you to death, and your engine's going to boil you alive.
Like a nice cup of tea.
Yeah. And what happens if you come into the circuit and you haven't quite stoked the boiler? You need to go around and what? Not enough steam.
Well, at least I got in the air in the first place, Ed, unlike yours.
I'm going to raise this on some technicalities. Is that there were some people who were quite critical about my X15 choice, and Lyndon said it was incapable of taking off. This was actually not ever proved. No one actually sat on the ground in an X15 and opened the throttle, so we don't know. Maybe it would have worked. So.
Yes, all things are possible, aren't they? If they don't try them.
Yeah. So John Milner with you had to be launched from a mothership. We don't know that. So maybe that's something to be tested. But anyway, what have we got? Dave wins again. Dave wins. I'm a bit concerned about this Dave wins again thing. When did Dave last win? Strong from Johnny. It's basically a motor glider. Yes. What do we got? So the U2 has a legacy engine, and they'll keep producing that lighter fuel. Yeah, true. Johnny wins. Dave's gone green. Dave's aeroplane is practical for us. I know, Michael, but when have we ever gone practical?
It's not practical hangar, Michael.
Picard's Climate Impulse plans to fly the world non-stop around the world on hydrogen. Excellent. Well, I hope he keeps it out of the cockpit because we know it's going to be cold. What about the coal tender you have to keep behind you, Annabelle?
Doesn't run on coal. No,
Annabelle's for the footage if you want to win. Dave wins, Annabelle wins, Johnny wins. I'm not seeing a lot of Ed wins tonight.
No.
Where's your soul? Clearly this is a good looker.
I think it might be a three-way tie, and one of them is not Ed.
And one of them isn't me, is it? Annabelle wins. Dave, if it can run on chip fat. Johnny wins. Dave wins. Annabelle for curiosity value. Well, all of you are wrong, but clearly it's none of you want X15. Well, I'm not going to declare a winner because I'm not sure who it is. Told us.
Everybody wins.
Didn't we have? Hasn't Ian come up with something that was coal dust powered in the past? A German thing, maybe.
That was the thing I was looking at this morning. The producer gas.
Yes.
P13, I think it was called.
Yeah, and no one went for the ME163, which used the two rocket fuels. Which, if either one of them, and if you spilt one of them, it blew up with no kind of involvement, or if you spilt the other one on you, it dissolved you. So I'm luckily a late win for me. There we go. X15 without question. I with Ed. I'll take Steve's win. There we go. Dave still wins. Me, Jane, the X15 is not ugly.
Have you seen that pink one?
Yeah, and Peter, no, don't do the sympathy vote, please. Linda Griffith, though, Scott Crossfield was a winner. Yeah, great. Worth reading his book. So, there we go.
Well, I think, we've got some events, have we, Dave?
Yep, it's another busy weekend, so long as the weather plays ball. So Thursday, from today through to Sunday, there's a Warbird weekend at Contenabus that was rescheduled from earlier this month. There's Saturday, there's the LAA Open Day at Tour Western. Also on Saturday, there's a few others on Saturday. Cessna and RV flying at Popham. Airfest and longest day flying at Shobden, and a longest day flying at Easter Airfield up in Scotland. Saturday and Sunday, there's the Great North Flying at Eshot.
Very good.
Yeah. Well, we're only a few minutes late.
Not bad.
Well, yeah, it's not too bad, is it? It's only 4 minutes late. But sadly, that is it for this week's Flyer live stream. Thank you to all the guests who have joined us this evening. Thank you to the viewers for joining us as well and staying through to the end. If you enjoyed the show, remember to like, subscribe and share the link. Next week, we will be joined by Ivy MacGyver of Cirrus, who will be telling us how they got a plane to land itself. And for members, we have a webinar on Tuesday about renewing and revalidating ratings. Until then, good night.
Bye all.
Bye.
Hello, this video is sponsored by us, the Flyer Club. And if you're not a member already, we'd love for you to join.
Members get access to all of our content, our free landing fees every month, exclusive webinars and much, much more.
It costs just £5 per month to become a member, so head on over to flyer.co.uk/membership or click the link in the description below.
It's a proper good deal.
It's a bargain.